Ethan's odyssey began in the bustling heart of Chicago, where the relentless pace of corporate life had consumed his identity. The initial chapters of his story were marked by a profound realization that he had been living a life dictated by external expectations, neglecting his own needs and values. This awakening was not a sudden epiphany but a gradual unfolding, catalyzed by moments of introspection and the teachings of Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. As Ethan delved deeper into Stoicism, he embraced the principle of focusing on what lies within his control. This shift in perspective empowered him to let go of the incessant need to please others and to start prioritizing his own well-being. He began setting clear boundaries, learning to say no without guilt, and dedicating time to activities that nurtured his soul. In the realm of physical health, Ethan recognized the intrinsic connection between body and mind. He adopted a holistic approach to wellness, incorporating regular exercise, mindful eating, and adequate rest into his routine. These practices not only revitalized his physical vitality, but also enhanced his mental clarity and emotional resilience. Ethan's transformation extended to his relationships. By cultivating authentic connections and distancing himself from toxic influences, he created a supportive environment conducive to personal growth. He learned that true companionship is rooted in mutual respect and shared values, not in obligation or convenience. Throughout his journey, Ethan remained committed to self-reflection. He regularly assessed his progress, celebrated milestones, and adjusted his course as needed. This iterative process reinforced his dedication to living a life aligned with his core principles. Ultimately, Ethan's story is a testament to the transformative power of self-prioritization and Stoic philosophy. By reclaiming agency over his life, he not only achieved personal fulfillment but also inspired those around him to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery. Profound lessons from Ethan's transformation. Ethan's narrative offers invaluable insights applicable to anyone seeking personal growth. Self-prioritization is essential. Prioritizing one's own needs is not selfish. It's a prerequisite for genuine well-being and the capacity to support others effectively. Control what you can. Focusing on aspects within your control fosters inner peace and reduces unnecessary stress. Holistic wellness matters. Physical health significantly influences mental and emotional states. Nurturing the body is integral to overall well-being. Authentic relationships are crucial. Surrounding oneself with supportive, value-aligned individuals enhances personal growth and fulfillment. Continuous self-reflection fuels growth. Regularly, evaluating one's actions and progress ensures alignment with personal values and facilitates ongoing development. Reflecting on Ethan's journey, consider the following question. Which aspect of Ethan's transformation resonates most with you? A. Embracing Stoic principles to focus on controllable aspects of life. B. Prioritizing physical health as a foundation for overall well-being. Please share your thoughts by commenting A or B below. Your insights contribute to a richer, more engaging community dialogue. We also invite you to share your perspectives and experiences related to self-prioritization and personal growth. Your stories can inspire and guide others on their journeys. If Ethan's story has resonated with you, consider subscribing to our channel. Your support motivates us to continue creating content that empowers and uplifts. Together, let's embark on paths of transformation and fulfillment. In the heart of Chicago, as the city pulsed with its usual rhythm, Ethan found himself reflecting on the profound transformation he had undergone. From a life once dictated by external expectations and relentless pursuits, he had journeyed inward, discovering a wellspring of resilience, purpose, and authenticity. This metamorphosis, rooted in Stoic principles and self-prioritization, had not only reshaped his existence, but had also ignited a desire to share his experiences with others. Ethan began to recognize that his story held the potential to inspire. He understood that by vulnerably sharing his struggles, triumphs, and the lessons gleaned along the way, he could offer a beacon of hope to those navigating their own paths. Drawing from his personal journey, he started to engage in conversations with friends, colleagues, and even strangers, candidly discussing the challenges he faced and the strategies he employed to overcome them. These dialogues often sparked meaningful connections. People resonated with Ethan's authenticity, finding solace in the realization that they were not alone in their struggles. His willingness to share not only fostered empathy but also encouraged others to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery and growth. Recognizing the broader impact of storytelling, Ethan began to explore platforms where he could reach a wider audience. He started a blog, penning essays that delved into the intricacies of personal development, the importance of setting boundaries, and the power of embracing one's vulnerabilities. His writings, infused with sincerity and insight, resonated with readers, many of whom reached out to express how his words had catalyzed change in their lives. Ethan also engaged in public speaking, sharing his narrative at community events and workshops. He emphasized the significance of self-prioritization, not as an act of selfishness, but as a foundational step towards leading a fulfilling and impactful life. His talks often concluded with actionable takeaways, empowering attendees to initiate their own transformations. Through these endeavors, Ethan witnessed the ripple effect of his storytelling. Individuals who had once felt stuck or overwhelmed began to take proactive steps towards self-care and personal growth. Communities started to foster environments where open dialogue and mutual support were encouraged. Ethan's journey had evolved from a personal odyssey into a collective movement towards empowerment and change. In sharing his story, Ethan discovered a profound truth, that vulnerability begets connection, and that by illuminating our own paths, we can light the way for others. His narrative became a testament to the transformative power of authenticity, resilience, and the human spirit's capacity for growth. In the quiet solitude of his Chicago apartment, Ethan sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker against the night sky. The hum of life outside contrasted with the stillness within, a reflection of the introspection that had become a cornerstone of his journey. Ethan had come to understand that self-prioritization wasn't a destination, but a continuous process of growth and adjustment. Embracing Stoic principles had taught him the value of self-reflection, of pausing to assess his path, celebrate his progress, and recalibrate his course as needed. He began to incorporate regular moments of reflection into his routine, carving out time each week to journal his thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This practice allowed him to acknowledge his achievements, no matter how small, and to recognize the strides he had made in aligning his life with his values. Life Coach certification. Online, Ethan also learned to view setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. When he encountered obstacles or deviated from his intended path, he approached these moments with curiosity and compassion, seeking to understand the underlying causes and to adjust his strategies accordingly. Celebrating milestones became an integral part of his journey. Whether it was completing a challenging project, maintaining a consistent meditation practice, or simply honoring his need for rest, Ethan took the time to acknowledge these victories. These celebrations reinforced his commitment to self-care and provided motivation to continue moving forward. Through this ongoing process of reflection and adjustment, Ethan cultivated a deeper sense of self-awareness and resilience. He recognized that personal growth was not linear, but a dynamic interplay of progress, setbacks, and learning. By embracing this perspective, he was able to navigate life's complexities with greater ease and confidence. Ethan's story illustrates the transformative power of self-reflection in the journey of self-prioritization. By regularly assessing his progress, celebrating his achievements, and making necessary adjustments, he created a life that was not only aligned with his values, but also rich in meaning and fulfillment. In the quiet moments of dawn, as the city of Chicago stirred awake, Ethan found himself lacing up his running shoes, a ritual that had become as integral to his day as his morning coffee. The rhythmic cadence of his footsteps on the pavement mirrored the steady beat of his renewed commitment to self-care. Ethan's journey into Stoicism had illuminated the profound connection between the mind and body. He realized that neglecting his physical health was akin to neglecting his capacity for resilience, clarity, and inner peace. The Stoics taught that while external circumstances are beyond our control, our responses, and by extension our physical well-being, are within our grasp. He began to view exercise not as a chore but as a practice in discipline and presence. Each run became a moving meditation, a space where he could process thoughts, release stress, and cultivate gratitude for his body's capabilities. The physical exertion grounded him, providing a tangible sense of progress and accomplishment. Nutrition, too, took on new significance. Ethan started to nourish his body with intention, choosing foods that energized and sustained him. He discovered that mindful eating was an act of self-respect, a daily affirmation of his commitment to well-being. Sleep, once sacrificed for productivity, became sacred. He established a calming bedtime routine, understanding that rest was not a luxury but a necessity for mental clarity and emotional balance. Quality sleep enhanced his focus, mood, and overall vitality. Ethan also embraced the power of breathwork and stretching, integrating moments of stillness into his day. These practices fostered a deeper connection between his physical sensations and emotional states, allowing him to navigate challenges with greater equanimity. Through these holistic approaches to physical health, Ethan experienced a transformation that extended beyond the physical realm. He found that caring for his body fortified his mind, enabling him to engage with life more fully and authentically. Ethan's story underscores the vital role of physical health in self-prioritization. By aligning his wellness practices with Stoic principles, he cultivated a harmonious balance between body and mind, laying a strong foundation for a purposeful and resilient life. In the aftermath of his personal transformation, Ethan found himself reevaluating the relationships that had long defined his world. The bustling corridors of his Chicago office, once a source of camaraderie, now echoed with the realization that many of his connections were built on convenience rather than genuine understanding. He began to see that while he had been present for others, he had often neglected to be present for himself. Ethan's journey into Stoicism had taught him the importance of focusing on what he could control. This principle became his compass as he navigated the complex terrain of personal and professional relationships. He recognized that he couldn't dictate others' actions or feelings, but he could choose how he responded. This realization was both liberating and daunting. He started by setting boundaries, a concept that had previously felt foreign and uncomfortable. Ethan understood that boundaries weren't about building walls, but about creating space for mutual respect and understanding. He began to communicate his needs clearly, expressing when he needed time for himself or when certain behaviors were unacceptable. This was not an act of defiance, but one of self-respect. Some relationships flourished. Under this new dynamic, friends and colleagues who valued Ethan's authenticity responded with support and appreciation. They admired his commitment to personal growth and found inspiration in his journey. These connections deepened, rooted in mutual respect and shared values. However, not all relationships survived the shift. There were those who resisted Ethan's boundaries, perceiving them as rejection or arrogance. Conversations that once flowed easily became strained and some ties unraveled. Ethan mourned these losses but understood that growth often requires letting go. He found solace in the Stoic belief that we should accept the natural course of events, focusing on our own virtue and integrity. In his personal life, Ethan applied these principles to his family dynamics. He engaged in open dialogues, expressing his desire for healthier interactions and mutual respect. While some family members embraced the change, others struggled to adjust. Ethan remained patient, embodying the Stoic virtue of compassion and continued to uphold his boundaries with kindness. Ethan also sought out new communities that aligned with his values. He joined local groups focused on mindfulness and personal development, finding a sense of belonging among individuals committed to self-improvement. These environments provided the support and encouragement he needed to continue his journey. Through these experiences, Ethan learned that building a supportive environment is an ongoing process. It requires self-awareness, courage, and the willingness to engage in difficult conversations. He discovered that by honoring his own needs and values, he could cultivate relationships that were not only supportive, but also deeply fulfilling. Ethan's story illustrates the profound impact of setting boundaries and fostering authentic connections. By embracing Stoic principles, he transformed his relationships and created a life rooted in integrity and mutual respect. His journey serves as a testament to the power of self-prioritization and the importance of surrounding oneself with a supportive community. In the weeks following his embrace of Stoic principles, Ethan found himself confronting a new challenge, the cacophony of distractions that had become the backdrop of his daily life. The constant pings of notifications, the endless scroll of social media, and the perpetual demands of a high-paced work environment threatened to derail his newfound clarity. Ethan realized that to truly prioritize himself, he needed to cultivate an unwavering focus, a discipline that would allow him to navigate the noise and stay aligned with his values. Drawing inspiration from the Stoics, he began to see focus not merely as a tool for productivity, but as a pathway to inner peace and purpose. He started by identifying the sources of his distractions. He noticed how often he reached for his phone during moments of discomfort or boredom, seeking a temporary escape from the present. He recognized how multitasking fragmented his attention, leaving him feeling scattered and unfulfilled. With this awareness, Ethan made a conscious decision to eliminate these distractions. He designated specific times for checking emails and messages, turning off notifications during periods of deep work. He created a dedicated workspace free from digital temptations, allowing him to immerse himself fully in the task at hand. He embraced the practice of single tasking, giving his undivided attention to one activity at a time. As Ethan cultivated this focused approach, he experienced a profound shift. Tasks that once felt overwhelming became manageable. He found himself entering a state of flow, where time seemed to dissolve, and his work became a source of fulfillment rather than stress. This newfound focus extended beyond his professional life, enriching his personal relationships and daily experiences. Ethan also revisited his approach to goal setting. Previously, his goals were often dictated by external expectations, leading to a cycle of striving and dissatisfaction. Now, guided by Stoic wisdom, he redefined his goals to align with his inner values and what was within his control. He set intentions rooted in personal growth, such as cultivating patience, practicing gratitude, and maintaining integrity. He measured success not by external achievements, but by his commitment to these virtues. This shift allowed him to pursue goals with a sense of purpose and resilience, unshaken by outcomes beyond his influence. Through this journey, Ethan discovered that focus and intentional goal setting were not just strategies for efficiency, they were acts of self-respect and empowerment. By eliminating distractions and aligning his actions with his values, he reclaimed his agency and found a deeper sense of fulfillment. Ethan's transformation serves as a testament to the power of focus and purposeful living. In a world filled with noise and endless demands, choosing to direct our attention deliberately and set meaningful goals can lead us back to ourselves. Back in his Chicago apartment, the once familiar walls now seemed to whisper questions Ethan had never dared to ask. The hospital stay had cracked something open in him, a quiet, aching realization that his life had been built on a foundation of noise and obligation. It wasn't just exhaustion that had brought him to his knees, it was a profound disconnection from himself. Lying in bed with the blinds drawn and silence stretching through the room like an unfamiliar guest, he opened his laptop out of habit. But this time it wasn't emails he was chasing, it was meaning. The first video he clicked on was about Marcus Aurelius, narrated in a slow, deliberate voice that seemed to understand the weariness behind his eyes. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. The line echoed in his mind long after the video ended. Ethan didn't know why, but he felt as if those words had been written just for him, in a forgotten corner of time, waiting until he was finally ready to hear them. Over the next few weeks, he dove into Stoicism, not as a philosophy to debate, but as a life raft. Seneca became his silent teacher. Epictetus, his no-nonsense coach. They didn't coddle. They didn't promise ease. But they spoke with a clarity that cut through the chaos. And most importantly, they offered something Ethan had never found. In productivity hacks or management books, a way to reclaim his inner compass. He learned about the dichotomy of control, what is up to us and what isn't. It was almost laughable how much of his energy had been spent trying to control what lay outside that boundary: other people's expectations, shifting deadlines, the perception of being indispensable. He saw now that this compulsion to prove himself had kept him chained to an identity he never consciously chose, so he made a choice. Not a grand, public declaration, but a quiet, defiant one. He chose to reclaim his mind. Every morning, before reaching for his phone, Ethan began a ritual. Just a pen, a notebook, and a question. What will I allow to define me today? At first, the answers were surface level, but slowly they deepened. He wrote not just about his to-do list, but about how he wanted to feel, what he wanted to stand for, what kind of man he hoped to become. He realized that self-prioritization wasn't about becoming selfish. It was about becoming deliberate. The Stoics weren't asking him to abandon the world. They were asking him to re-enter it with clearer eyes, stronger boundaries, and a deeper sense of who he was. Ethan stopped treating his time like a currency for others to spend. He began guarding it like a sacred space. If someone asked for a meeting during his reading hour, the answer was no. Not because he didn't care, but because he finally understood something essential. When you sacrifice your core for convenience, you become forgettable, even to yourself. He started applying stoicism in the small moments, the ones where old habits tried to claw their way back. When a passive-aggressive email arrived, he didn't rush to respond. Instead, he paused. Is this within my control? If not, he let it go. If it was, he responded with clarity, not emotion. One cold Sunday morning, he found himself walking by the lake. The sky was heavy, the city quiet. He had no destination, only the need to move. As he walked, he remembered a quote by Seneca. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. The words hit harder than expected. He had wasted time, not in laziness, but in the pursuit of everything except himself. It was there, on that lonely walk, that Ethan made a second vow, not just to reclaim his time, but to fill it with things that mattered. Not obligations, not performances, not reputation management, but presence, purpose, and peace. He noticed his cravings for constant affirmation begin to dissolve. The applause he used to chase no longer felt necessary. He no longer needed to be told he was doing enough. He was finally starting to believe it. At night, instead of zoning out to TV or scrolling endlessly, Ethan journaled again. This time, a reflection. Did I honor my values today? Not always, but more often than before. And in those small victories, he felt something growing, a sturdiness, a self-respect he hadn't felt in years. What surprised him most was how the world didn't collapse when he said no. Colleagues adjusted, friends respected him more. Some people faded out of his life, but in their place came space. Space for new connections, and more importantly, space for silence. One afternoon, while reading a worn copy of Meditations, he underlined a passage that would stay with him forever. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. That single sentence unraveled years of internal struggle. He saw how often he had made himself miserable, not because of events, but because of how he interpreted them. The Stoics didn't promise peace through avoidance. They offered power through perspective. Ethan's transformation wasn't flashy. He didn't post about it, he didn't brag. But his life, slowly, was becoming his again. He was no longer the man who collapsed under the weight of other people's priorities. He was becoming a man who stood firmly on his own. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, silent forest, the world behind you fading into a blur of noise and expectations. Ahead lies the unknown, a path untraveled, beckoning with the promise of self-discovery. This is where our story begins. In the heart of Chicago, amidst the relentless hum of the city and the towering silhouettes of glass-clad buildings, lived a man named Ethan. To the world, he was the epitome of professional success. A senior strategist at a prestigious firm, known for his dependability, quick thinking, and tireless work ethic. His days were packed from sunrise to well past sunset, and his inbox rarely saw fewer than 100 unread emails. Always connected, always performing, but beneath the perfectly crafted facade was a soul slowly unraveling. Every morning, Ethan woke up before dawn, not from inspiration, but from anxiety. The day's pressures descended before his feet touched the floor. His phone was his lifeline and his leash, buzzing, blinking, summoning him before he could even draw a breath. There were meetings to prepare for, problems to solve, and people to please. He moved through life like a ghost, efficient, productive, but profoundly disconnected from himself. One cold November evening, after yet another 14-hour day, Ethan found himself walking aimlessly through Grant Park. The wind cut through his coat, and the city lights shimmered on the surface of Lake Michigan. Drawn by something he couldn't name, he sat down on a bench facing the water. The usual noise in his head, the to-do lists, the unfinished tasks, the fear of falling behind, began to recede. In that rare moment of stillness, something cracked open. Memories flooded in. The sound of his mother's laughter during summer cookouts, the thrill of his first camera, the journal he used to write in during college. He realized he couldn't remember the last time he had felt joy that wasn't tied to achievement. He had become a machine in a world that never powered down. And now, even his body was starting to resist. A quiet but undeniable question surfaced. What am I doing this for? It was a question he had been too busy to ask, too distracted to answer. But now it echoed through him with uncomfortable clarity. Ethan saw how far he had drifted from who he used to be. He wasn't living. He was surviving. This was his awakening. The next morning he didn't check his phone. He didn't open his laptop. Instead, he brewed a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city wake up. It felt foreign, awkward, but it was real. For the first time in years, Ethan gave himself permission to just be. He knew the road ahead would be long and uncertain. Reclaiming a life wasn't as simple as flipping a switch. It would require him to unlearn years of conditioning, to disappoint people who had grown used to his constant availability, and to confront the parts of himself he had long buried beneath obligation. But Ethan was ready. He began reclaiming his mornings. Instead of rushing into his workday, he carved out time for reflection. He journaled. He walked without headphones. He allowed himself to explore forgotten passions, like photography, which reawakened a sense of wonder he thought he had lost forever. He set limits at work, creating space for rest without apology. He started to reconnect with old friends, not out of guilt, but out of desire. And as he shifted his focus inward, something extraordinary happened. His energy returned. His sleep improved. His creativity sparked in unexpected ways. His interactions became richer, less transactional. The world hadn't stopped demanding things from him, but for the first time, he no longer offered himself up as a sacrifice. Ethan's story is not about abandoning responsibility or chasing self-indulgence. It's about recalibrating his life so that he could show up fully, first for himself and then for others. It's a story about choosing to live with intention rather than inertia. This was the beginning of his transformation, and it started with a single quiet act of rebellion. He chose to matter to himself. Now, I invite you to reflect. Which path are you on? A. The path of self-neglect, constantly catering to others at the expense of your well-being. B. The path of self-prioritization, honoring your needs and embracing your true self. Comment your answer below with A or B and share your thoughts. Your journey matters, and your voice could inspire someone else to embark on their own path of self-discovery.